I still remember the smell of coffee and floor polish that Tuesday afternoon, the day my whole life cracked open. I was 26, working double shifts at a fancy spot downtown called the Mariner's Table. It was the kind of place where one appetizer could wipe out my week's grocery budget. But for me, it was just a job, a rhythm. Water pitchers, refills, polite smiles. Stay invisible. Stay paid. I was sliding a tray under my arm, heading toward table 7, when I felt a pair of eyes following me, old but sharp, like they were cutting through time. The woman sitting in the corner booth was dressed in navy silk, pearls at her throat, posture like royalty. Next to her, a man in a $1,000 suit scrolled his phone, oblivious. I only knew them by reputation: Leonard Cross, the real estate tycoon who owned half the waterfront, and his mother, Evelyn. "Ma'am, anything else?" I asked, softly balancing the pitcher. She didn't answer. Instead, her hand shot out and grabbed my wrist. Cool fingers, surprisingly strong. Her eyes went glassy, then blazing, and she whispered, "You have my daughter's eyes." For a second, the whole restaurant went quiet. No clinking glasses, no forks. Leonard looked up, annoyed. "Mother, please," he started, but then he saw me, really saw me, and everything about his face changed. He stood, his mouth opening like he wanted to say something, then went pale as paper. "Laura," he breathed, clutching his chest. And right there in front of 100 strangers, the great Leonard Cross collapsed. People screamed. China shattered. The paramedics came. Me? I just stood there with her fingers locked on my wrist, wondering what the hell had just happened. They questioned me like I'd caused it, took my name, told me not to speak to the press. A man in a gray suit, Marcus Hale, their attorney, gave me his card and said, "We'll be in touch." I went home to my little apartment over a laundromat, hands still trembling. My roommate Nia asked if I'd seen a ghost. I said, "Maybe I did." The next afternoon, Marcus called. He wanted me at a hotel suite off the record. Nia begged me not to go, sounds like a setup, but something in me needed answers. So I went wearing my best thrift store blouse, heart banging against my ribs. Inside the suite, Evelyn sat small and brittle on a velvet sofa, but her eyes burned. Marcus laid out my life like a file: foster care at 18 months. No death certificates for the parents. I'd been told died in a car crash. Evelyn told me about her daughter Laura, rebellious, brilliant, pregnant when she vanished 25 years ago. "We believe you're her child," she said. "We want a DNA test. We'll pay you $100,000 no matter what." I laughed a sharp little bark. "Lady, I grew up eating boxed mac and cheese. You don't just drop $100,000 on a stranger." Marcus slid a paper across the table. "Sign the NDA. We'll swab today." I did it. Partly because I wanted the truth. Partly because I couldn't stop seeing that old woman's face when she grabbed me. They moved me into a secure suite for my protection. At first it felt like a vacation Egyptian cotton sheets room service. But then someone stole a necklace Evelyn had given me, the only thing tying me to her daughter. Mugger ignored my wallet and took the locket. Marcus's face went pale when I told him. "Pack a bag," he said. "Now." Days blurred. I visited their estate, once a sprawling mansion with oil portraits. One painting stopped me cold. A young woman with my jawline, my mole under the ear, my eyes but fiercer. Laura. She stared out from the canvas like she knew I was coming. Evelyn's hand trembled as she touched the frame. She was 21 here, she whispered. She hated sitting for it. A week later, Marcus's phone buzzed. We were all in the suite, Evelyn's security posted at the door. He listened, nodded, hung up. "It's a match," he said. 99.999. You are Laura's daughter. Evelyn broke down sobbing. I just sat there. For a girl who'd grown up with no last name worth mentioning, suddenly having the most powerful one in the city was like being hit by a truck. And along with the shock came something darker. The black sedan outside my building, the mugging, the locket. Someone had known before we did. Someone was watching. Marcus pressed Leonard for answers. Leonard was recovering in a private hospital wing, but when Marcus confronted him, the tycoon's mask cracked. He confessed that Laura hadn't simply run off. She'd been terrified of a man named Richard Stanton, a slick developer tied to dirty money obsessed with her. She'd stolen a ledger from him, proof of his crimes. Leonard had given her cash to disappear, thinking he could handle Stanton. She never called again. Hearing that felt like someone had ripped open a window into my own birth. My mother hadn't abandoned me. She'd been running for both our lives. We dug. Marcus assembled ex-FBI investigators. They traced shell companies to a burned-down cabin in Vermont. They found a Polaroid of Laura handing a baby to a trusted housekeeper outside a church in Danville. My baptism record was still there, buried in a registry book. My entire origin story, the car crash, the nameless parents, was a lie built to protect me. Then the call came. Stanton had landed his private jet at a tiny airfield outside Boston. Surveillance picked up one of his enforcers renting an apartment across from my old place. And Naya, my roommate, was still there. Marcus tried to stop me, but I wasn't about to let someone use my best friend as bait. "I'll go in," I said. "I'll wear the wire. He wants me, not her." Night fell hard. I walked up the familiar stairs, heart-hammering Mike taped under my shirt. Inside, Nia sat frozen on the couch. Behind her stood Richard Stanton, tall, immaculate gold onyx ring catching the dim light. His voice was a purr dipped in poison. "Emma Vance," he said, savoring my name. "The resemblance to your mother is uncanny. She had something of mine and thought she could run. Now here you are. Let her go." I snapped, my voice steadier than I felt. He tilted his head. "Your mother was foolish. She died protecting a ledger that no longer matters. You, though, you could make this very easy." Nia whimpered. I saw the pistol he pressed into her ribs. Every muscle in my body screamed to move, but I kept my hands visible, eyes locked on his. "Her story is going to be told," I said, slipping the code phrase Marcus had drilled into me. "It's over." Stanton's smile curled. "It's over when I say glass exploded." The front door flew inward. Tactical team poured in, black shapes shouting commands. Nia dropped to the floor. Stanton wheeled, raising the gun at me, and a single shot cracked the air. Stanton staggered back, clutching his shoulder gun, clattering to the hardwood. In the doorway stood Leonard Cross, pale but steady. Marcus at his side. Leonard's voice was flat, empty of all pretense. For Laura, everything after felt like a movie on fast forward. Stanton arrested his empire stripped. Investigators dug up the cabin site and found what we already knew in our bones. My mother never made it out alive. But at least the world finally knew her truth. Not a runaway socialite, but a mother who risked everything to protect her child. I took the settlement money and built something new. The Laura Cross Foundation, a lifeline for women and kids trying to escape dangerous situations. Leonard poured his fortune into it, maybe trying to buy back his soul. Evelyn comes by every week, sits in the garden, and tells me stories about my mom. Sometimes I catch her looking at me like she still can't believe I'm real. I've gone from invisible waitress to someone whose name opens doors, but that's not the victory. The victory is standing on my own feet, telling my mother's story, refusing to let men like Stanton erase women like her. And still late at night, I think about that first moment, a trembling hand on my wrist and 5 quiet words. "You have my daughter's eyes." It was a beginning and an ending all at once. So here's where I leave it with you. What would you have done if you were me? Walked away from the money, the danger, the family, or stepped right into the storm to find the truth? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me if you've ever seen power used to bury a secret or a family torn apart by silence. Because stories like mine aren't just about the past. They're about all of us deciding whether to stay invisible or finally be seen.